What's going on, everyone? So the New Orleans Pelicans are hanging to the 5th seed by a thread. They are currently at 34-23. They're having a very solid season. This is a team that last year was actually the 1 seed for a little stretch. When everyone's healthy, when everyone's playing well, this is a team that can hang around and potentially beat anybody. Are they a real contender? Personally, I don't think so. I think many people don't believe that they're a true contender or a team that is going to make a championship. Could they, with the right matchup, beat any team in the postseason? Sure. Right? I do think that they could surprise somebody. They do have a lot of talent. They do have some solid depth. I still think that they are a very young team that needs to kind of take their lumps, needs to kind of take their you kind of go through the motions, right? You get to the postseason. This is a team that struggled to get to the postseason more times than not, play-in team since losing Anthony Davis, right? You fight to get into the playoffs. Now you're in the playoffs, lose in the first round. Then you go in the second round. Then you go in the third round. And then you work your way there. I think that that's kind of the trajectory in which the Pelicans could be on. Also, another thing is that their two main guys in Zion and Brandon Ingram, can they stay healthy? It's a real question with those two, right? Like, that's kind of been New Orleans' real downfall year in and year out. That one, if not both of these guys, end up getting hurt and missing extended time or end up missing the season entirely. And it's not good for the Pelicans to be so reliant on two guys that are so injury prone. Another thing is neither of these guys are one of the super duper stars. Zion, image-wise, is, but he has the talent to be, right? Like, Zion could be easily a top 10 player if he committed to the game of basketball, but he's not there yet. And it's like, is Ingram and Zion the two guys that you want to basically mortgage your future on, in the belief that they're the two that can lead you to a championship? I don't think so. And it is looking more and more likely that the Pelicans are going to have to make that decision very likely this offseason. We'll see if they kind of wait a little bit, but look, Zion, Brandon Ingram, and CJ McCollum are all making more than $33 million per season. So you're basically cap strapped between those three. You have Herb Jones, Trey Murphy, Jordan Hawkins, and several others that are all going to be due contracts that are going to need to be paid. At some point, you're going to have to break this duo up. CJ McCollum, even if you were to unload him or trade him or get rid of him, again, he's a great complementary third piece, I think. Right? If you had Zion, another real true star, and then CJ was your third guy with Murphy and Herb and Jordan and all of them, then I actually think that they could truly be a contender. Problem is that they're going to have to make a decision sooner rather than later. And when you look at Zion, right, let's start there. He, in my opinion, has the potential to be, he has the potential. Sky's the limit for Zion. In all honesty, Zion Williamson, he's still only 23 years old. He still has plenty of room, plenty of growth, plenty of upside. He has all the tools to be the best player in the league. The dude is just utterly dominant and at times just looks like a force. And he is a force, right? He is a very unique player with a very unique skill set. He's 6'7", just a monster, absolute monster on the basketball court. Guy that just is unguardable at times, because everybody that's his size doesn't have his strength and athleticism and just physicality. And everyone that does have his size, strength, and physicality just don't have the tools to defend him. He is just a dominant mismatch. But it's the weight problem, and it's the commitment to the game of basketball and adapting and changing his game. At 6'6", 284 pounds, to have the athleticism and just dominance that he has is absolutely incredible to begin with. But he needs to get around ideally 240, 250. And I think that he would just be a real force. But that's, again, the problem. His work ethic, his desire to be the guy. And there has been a real argument for years now. He's been in the league 3 years. Basically, after year one, there was a real argument of like, should the Pelicans trade this guy and look for another direction, right? Because they would get the absolute farm for him, right? But the question is like, one, what would a team be willing to offer you? Because you need to start getting together full seasons here. Like I said, he has 3 seasons under his belt. This is his 4th season, but this season isn't over, and we'll see. So far, he's played 45 games, which is good. This is the second most games he has played for his career thus far. Outside of that, he had his 2nd season where he played 61 games. That is the most he's played. His rookie year, 24 games. Sophomore year, 61. Didn't play the whole season with the foot injury. Then last year he played 29 games. And now this year, 45. If he can stay healthy, he can kind of maintain himself. I don't believe you should trade Zion. I think Zion, if you can get him locked in, focused, and really just kind of bought into the idea of like, hey, let me be the best version of Zion Williamson I can be, then I think that this is a guy that can really just take the league by storm. I mean, his 2nd season, in which he played 61 games, he averaged 33 minutes, took 16 shots, had a 61% field goal percentage. 3-point range, he needs to work on that. If he can develop, and that's something else, like, again, it goes into his work ethic and developing an all-around game, right? We've seen his ability to knock down threes, right? His freshman year, he actually shot 43% from 3. He only averaged like an attempt a game, so it wasn't really much. This season, he is basically not shooting threes at all. But when he does, he's shooting them at a 36% clip. Last year, he shot it at a 37% clip. Right? If he could just develop any type of, doesn't even have to be elite, just consistent league average type of 3-point shot, right? Like if he could average 36% from 3 on 4 attempts or 3 attempts per game, then that would go a long way for him and just kind of open up so much more with his just explosiveness and his ability to just bully himself to the basket. Obviously, you'd prefer him around the rim as much as possible, but if he could develop a shot, a mid-range, a 3-point shot, kind of, again, an all-around game, he just would become that much more dominant, and it's just like, good luck. The rest of the league is in trouble. But you look at his best season, right, which I said was his 2020-2021 season at age 20 years old. He was 20 years old. 33 minutes per game, 17 field goal attempts, 61.1%, 29.4% from 3, but he averaged 0.6 attempts per game, so not really much there. So 16.4 attempts from 2-point range, in which he shot 62.2% with an EFG of 61.6%. Absolutely insane. Shot 70% from the foul line on 8.7 attempts, which that's kind of what he's been around. That was also his second best free throw attempts in 2022-2023. He actually shot 71.4%. This season, he's shooting 68.5%. Rebounding that year was his best rebounding season at 7.2 rebounds per game. Assists was 3.7. He's actually gotten better in the assist department. He averaged 4.6 last season and 4.9 this season, so basically 5 assists, 1 steal, 1 block, and 27 points per game. Last year, he averaged 26 points per game. This year, he's averaging 22.5, but his field goal attempts are the fewest it's been since his rookie year. So he's not getting the attempts that he had in that year that he averaged 27, right? This is a guy that, seriously, like, if he's your main piece and you have that, like, secondary complementary piece, that other star, then I do think New Orleans could be a real problem. You got to keep Zion, in my opinion. So that means you got to figure out what you're going to do and very likely move on from Brandon Ingram. And look, I like Brandon Ingram a lot. I loved Brandon Ingram when he was out with Duke. I was stoked when the Lakers drafted him. He was the guy I was hoping the Lakers would draft that year. As a Laker fan, I really like Brandon Ingram. But one, he's also 26 years old, which I'm not saying that that's old by any stretch. But again, I mean, you're talking a guy like Zion, more upside, more potential, and he's also 3 to 4 years younger. But Brandon Ingram has all the tools, 6'8", 7'3" wingspan, just an absolute bucket on the mid-range, a guy that can do a lot of things out there on the basketball court. But you're going to have to pay him, and you're going to have to pay him real soon. And that's the issue, right? Because you owe him $36 million next season. He'll be 27 years old, and then he's a free agent. So you either have to A, give him an extension, which now you're talking he's going to be making $40+ million a year, right? Is he worth that? I mean, depends on how you look at it, right? But we'll dive into that here in a second. As far as him being the kind of the odd man out with the Pelicans, right? Like, your best interest is to try to trade for him or try to trade him. Like, I think, you go into the offseason, you look to move him now, so that way you don't have to worry about, like, okay, well, now what do? We don't want to lose him for nothing, so we need to figure out a way to give him an extension or trade him. You don't want to get into that trap that's a mess where at like the trade deadline, you're trying to scramble and get stuff. And now teams know, like, okay, well, you're desperate. So what else are you going to do? So take this off. You don't want to be in that position, right? You want to be in a position to where it's like, all right, you're good. Get some nice pieces, get some complimentary people. Maybe you can even flip him into another star. That could be really nice for you, right? Like, put yourself in a position to where, ideally, if say like a Donovan Mitchell, right? Just kind of using him as an example. The problem is, like, if you were to trade for a Donovan Mitchell, you're not going to get. I just don't see him sticking around. I don't see him staying. But somebody like that, like a proven playoff star, a guy that can carry an offense, a guy that can kind of be that 1 or 2 guy on any given night next to Zion, something like that I think would be beneficial. Like, trying to find a guy like that. We'll see who becomes available. Every offseason, somebody becomes available. Pelicans have a bunch of picks, have a bunch of assets. Brandon Ingram, you package him with some picks, you could get a high-level star if one were to become available. Again, what becomes available, right? You are in New Orleans, so unfortunately, it's not a desired destination. So anybody you potentially trade for, you want them to be kind of more longer-term deals. So it's not so much about just the price as it is, are these two guys the guys that you believe can lead you to the promised land? I don't. The other problem, like I said, is that Brandon Ingram just doesn't play a lot of games, right? His rookie season, he played 79 games. He only started in 40 of them. Outside of that, the most he has played in a season was his first season with New Orleans, in which he played 62 games. Then it's just been downhill from there. He played 62 games, and 61, 55, 45, 51. Right? Now, maybe he finishes, and maybe he gets back to, 70 games or something like that. I mean, he just missed the last game. But realistically, he's probably, if you're lucky, maybe he plays around 61 games. Maybe he plays another 10 to 12 games. Right? Like, that would be nice. Get to like 63. But it's just, you're going to pay a guy $40+ million a year to average, let's call it 60 games a year. It's not, like, how good are you going to be on a regular basis? And how much better can Brandon Ingram be? Right? Like, where does Brandon Ingram rank? He's not a top 15 player. I don't think he's a top 20 player. Top 25 maybe? Top 30? Right? It's just, you have these two guys who, yes, both guys are incredibly talented, but it's just neither of them right now are talented enough to lead you to the promised land. Like, if Zion was the guy that we envision he can be, then I do think like Brandon Ingram as like your clear-cut second option would be spectacular, right? But Zion's not there yet. And who knows how long it'll be before he gets there if he ever even gets there. And it's just, so now you're paying an arm and a leg for these two guys, and it's like, now what? What do you do? Right? And it's just, are you okay with being kind of mediocre? Because that's kind of what it's going to be. Is you're going to be, maybe you're good enough to make the playoffs every year. Maybe you're good enough to, maybe you make it out of the first round a couple years here and there. But eventually, you're going to reach that point where you're just, you're scrambling. And now you're trying to hope that maybe some star becomes, when it's like, move on, trade Ingram, get as many assets and pieces as you can get. If you can get like another star, like borderline star, because there are teams that would love to bring in Brandon Ingram and maybe trade some pieces for Brandon Ingram. So if you can go and work something out to where you can recoup a bunch of just quality pieces and maybe some trade assets or whatever, I think you do it. If you have to choose between these two, it's in my opinion, it's without a doubt you keep Zion, right? And you hope and pray that Zion continues down the path he's going. He's been much better this year, at least staying on the basketball court. You hope that he continues to buy in. You just, right now you have to bet on somebody, and I think you just bet on Zion. He's younger, more upside. Sky's the limit for this guy. Like I said, Zion, if he's bought in, focused, and plays the way that we know he can, I mean, this guy could be top 5, top 10 player in the league. I mean, there was real genuine conversations his second season of like, is he already a top 10 guy? Right? And it just, the injuries and not playing and showing up, out of shape and overweight and all that, just it's became an issue. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion. I pass a question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? How do you feel? Who do you think that they should choose between these two if they have to choose one? Because again, like, they're going to have to start paying guys. And it's like, yes, you can trade and unload some of those guys, but you're doing that at the expense of keeping Brandon Ingram. You might as well just keep those other guys and wait to see if somebody excellent becomes available. See what a guy like a Trey Murphy can become. Right? I mean, he's one of, if not the best on-ball defenders in the league. I mean, he's really good. And then Herb Jones and all these guys, you got the nice complementary pieces, right? Like, I just think that you get as much as you can for Ingram right now. And also, you don't want to get to the point where teams are like, he only plays 40 games a year. Right? Like, what are we going to give up? Like, kind of sell high while you can. But anyway, again, let me know how you feel down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me out a lot. Lets me enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribed to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.